Hello, and welcome to our April GLE on Springtime Fun, activities inside and outside the classroom. This GLE is presented by Team Wolfpack, which is Amanda, Cheryl, Christina, Nadir, Rebecca, and C. And our mission at BrightSpark is to nurture and sustain child-centered, anti-racist early learning communities.
All right, and we're going to start with a land acknowledgement as usual. We would like to acknowledge with gratitude the land that we are on. We recognize that we are on the stolen lands of the Coast Salish people who steward these lands and are still here today. We also acknowledge that the land we occupy was built by the labor of enslaved Africans. At BrightSpark, we stand against all forms of racism and ask that you stand with us to end racism in all its form. And the photo on this slide here was taken near Packwood, Washington, just outside of the Ohanacapash entrance to what is currently known as Mount Rainier National Park. The Puyallup tribe name for the mountain is and has been Tahoma, and other native names in the area for the mountain include Tacoma and Tacobet. The land within the national park has historical, cultural, and spiritual meanings to many native tribes, including the Cowlitz, Muckleshoot, Nisqually, Puyallup, Squaxin, and the confederated tribes and bands of the Yakama Nation.
Agenda for our GLE today is that as a group, we will collectively present different learning areas and a variety of ways you can adapt inside activities and to have them be fun outdoor ones as well. And the areas that we will be talking about are dramatic play, cooking, art, science and math, fine motor, library area, blocks, addressing outdoor safety, and playing outside in the rain and shine. First, start off with some cooking activities. So I have two cooking activities for us. The first one is fruit and veggie critters. So I have this activity as a great way to introduce children to lots of different fruits and vegetables in a fun and creative way. Um, Allow children to cut and prepare their critters as much as safe as possible using plastic or other child-safe knives. And then you will need the following supplies for this activity. Various fruits and vegetables, making sure that you're keeping allergies in mind. Nut butters or other cream cheese. So if you have a child, some butter is also a really good peanut butter alternative. Edible googly eyes for their critter's face. We talked about plastic or other child-safe knives and utensils for scooping and spreading. And as the children are making their critters, talk about what fruits and vegetables are they using? Why did they choose them? Do they eat these fruits and vegetables at home? And then what do they taste like? To have a home and school connection, you can create a recipe card for each child to take home and encourage families to try this project together. And then the next recipe I have is a little more of a treat and not as healthy as the fruit and veggie critters. And this is a fruit pizza. So this activity will require cooking. So conversations about cooking safety should be had. Like we talked about, is sweeter than the previous cooking activity and definitely a treat. Supplies that you'll need are various fruits, a pre-made sugar cookie dough, and if you want to, you could make your own sugar cookie dough and spread this out to be a multiple day project where maybe one day you're making your sugar cookie dough, letting it cool overnight, and then baking the next day. And then the base for your fruit pizza is going to be cream cheese frosting. Um, so as a group, or you could choose to make one large class pizza, or you can let the children choose to make their own pizzas. Letting the dough sit out, even for a few hours, will help it roll out easier. And so after the children are done preparing their pizza crust with rollers and other kneading items, bake according to package directions and allow to cool fully. Um, while the dough is baking, you could have the children slice their fruit of choice, placing in a plate or bowl, and allow the children to spread their frosting and place their fruits on their own pizzas. You can even allow the children to dye the cream cheese frosting to different colors. You could even have them mix colors and talk about science concepts with, what does red and blue make and all of that. And the next area we're going to talk about is dramatic play. So I have a dramatic play garden shop here. Springtime is a time when people begin to plant flowers and plant gardens, and having a dramatic play garden shop is a great way to teach children about this. So to do this, you'll need various seed packets. For younger children and maybe infants to explore, make sure you seal them with tape so that they are not able to get them open and choking hazard. Various fake flowers and fake fruits and veggies, cash register with money, various size pots and gardening tools, gardening gloves, and displays of different pictures of different flowers or plants. You can create a sign for your garden shop that has a price on it, and you could laminate these so that you could use them um, year after year. And then include the children. If they are older children, they can help you create these signs. They can, write out the wording on these so that you're bringing in that children's writing. And then to bring this activity outdoors, you can set up your garden area outdoors. You can also have the children, after they're done exploring the flower and seed packets inside, you could have them bring them outdoors and have them plant um, flowers and vegetables, and then if you're short on space and you don't have a large garden area, you can use the pots that you have used inside in your area. And then let the children care as the children are caring for their plants. You can give them clipboards and papers and pencils, and they can monitor their garden's progress each day.
All right, art area. There's a few fun activities I was able to come up with, and I wanted to share this one first. It's called nature name writing. This is an awesome way to get the kids to not only identify with their own name, but focus and work on fine motor as well. So what I would start off with is having a project inside first, using either marker or pencil or any art material that you have inside to first write the name. You can have the advanced kids writing their name first or tracing it first, or the kids that are still working on that have the teachers already pre-trace it with a Sharpie. And then when you guys bring it outside, now you enter the vast nature and the vast outdoors and allow the students in a safe, supervised area to collect material and using those materials to create their names, lining up flowers, lining up leaves, tree branches, and also just different things that you're able to find outside to write your name in nature. Let's go to the We have next is nature's natural paintbrushes. So keeping with staying outside, just like how anything can be an instrument in nature, almost anything can also be used as a paintbrush. Have fun with this and collect as many different items with as many different textures as possible to serve as a good paintbrush. You can use pine cones, leaves, sticks, rocks, and anything you can find outside. Find the ones that have the most interesting textures and have the kids be creative in exploring and finding the ones that they want to create for themselves. Let's go to the next one. Next is nature self-portraits. So in the classroom, what I would do first is showing your students how you can draw a cat, car, or house by just using basic shapes. An example, big circle for a face, triangle for ears, circle for the eyes, little oval for the mouth, add a few whiskers, and there you have a cat. This is a great way to get their brains warmed up for the idea that we can create anything, almost out of anything, especially when it comes to art. This freedom to create is an opportunity, and it's important early on into allowing the creativity to blossom in the way that it is intended. When we apply too many rules to art too early in the eyes of a young artist, we could potentially box in their potential and limit their growth in that area without even knowing it. Be encouraging and guide them. Help refine their skills and don't confine their skills. Take this concept outside and use the natural material that you can find around the outdoor area. And for teachers, I would recommend to take your time to collect a variety of different items that you can beforehand, whether it's from in the classroom or around your house, to collect as many different variety as you can, and then show the students an example of your own self-portrait. Walk them through your own artistic process. Use this as an opportunity to excite them and hype them up to explore and find a different material on their own. What I would do is I would pose this question to them. What items in nature represent you? Do you want to use more softer items, rougher items, slicker items, more colorful items, darker items? What items, when you put them together, would represent you and your self-portrait? This is a fun project I've done before, and the kids have had a lot of enjoyment just going around exploring and creating their own faces. Some are really silly with it. Some create really, really beautiful art pieces out of this. So this is a fun project that you guys can do for springtime. So next, let's hit up the science area. Science. So living in the state of Washington, we are really privileged to have a lot of green around us. We have a lot of native plants, a lot of native trees, a lot of native flowers. And oftentimes we don't learn a lot about these flowers. We don't learn about the names of the flowers, how to identify them. So this is a fun way to introduce the kids to some of these plants that are around us, around the neighborhoods. Create a bingo sheet with pictures of trees, plants, and flowers that are native to the state of Washington. In the class, show the students each picture and briefly talk about each tree, talk about the characteristics of it. This is a great opportunity to teach vocabulary and specifically descriptive words, and then go outside for a neighborhood walk and try to identify different trees. Using the bingo board and try to see who can come up with the most, who can line up the bingo and get three in a row first. It's a fun way to walk around the neighborhood and just find out what's around, all the things that you have that is outside. This is a fun project that I've always loved doing with the kids, and especially if you have a week-long schedule that you can plan ahead to. So this one will be an extended project where you will first focus on teaching them about mountains, using circle time to visually show them about the different landscapes, talking to them about mountains, valleys, hills, deserts, plains, woodlands, etc. And then saving mountains for last, and then talking about how volcanoes work, how they erupt, and then using each day of the week to learn about each landscape, whether it's desert or hill or the plains, and then using each of those days to create one out of your arts and craft material, construction paper that you have, material you find outside. And then at the very end on the Friday, when you finish creating all your other four landscapes, now you create your volcano and you can go outside and you can erupt that volcano. One challenge you can do is you can have each section divided up with each group, and they can find a way to create I don't know, sort of a wall to protect from the eruption. We had a fun project that we did this in college where we had access to this huge machine that was able to simulate a flood, and we had sand area, and we were able to create sort of like a wall protect like to protect like a beach area, perhaps if flood was coming. So this would be a fun idea for the children to say, hey, if we knew a volcano was happening and you had these type of materials, what can you do to build to protect from the lava soda that would be floating down from your volcano? And this last one is a fun and easy, simple project. It's called What Melts in the Sun. You can present different items to the kids and have them each make a prediction. You can teach them the new word hypothesis, and they can predict which item they think will melt first, which items they think will melt the fastest. Use items such as ice cubes, chocolates, gummy bears, crayons, or any items that you have around the house. You can mark them each too. As they melt, you can say this one melted around the 15-minute mark, or this one melted later on in the day. And then you can keep a track, a data, and the kids will get really into how the process works, how the heat from the sun and how each material is a little bit different and which one will melt faster.
Hello, everyone. So I'm here to talk about the math area. Um, Give me a second. Okay, so the first slide is math outside, you bet. Let's talk about math. Math shows up naturally when we're outside and how we can make sure all the kiddos, including those with disabilities, can participate and feel successful. So when kids are picking up rocks or jumping from log to log or from those little stumps sometimes we have on the playground, they're doing early learning math. Sorting, counting, measuring, sequences. Um, and when we're intentional about that and how we set up those experiences, every child can join in. For example, if you have a child using a mobility device, maybe instead of jumping, they can count how many wheels it takes to cross a space, or use their arms to roll and count and push. If fine motor skills are tricky, offer big and easy materials to grab and adaptive tools. We could also use visuals, gestures, or verbal prompts to support understanding. And sometimes it's about giving a little more time and breaking it into steps. The bottom line is like with outside play, there's rich and adaptable. And we're not trying to make everyone do the same thing. We want to make sure every child gets a chance to explore ways that work for them. So my next slide, please, is going to talk about outdoor activities. So here are some, oops. Oh, sorry, guys. One second. All right, so here are some outdoor activities I was thinking that would be great, and meaningful and accessible for children, for all children, including those who might have physical, sensory, or developmental disabilities. So nature sorting and graphing. It can be made to be more inclusive by offering tongs with grips or using larger items that are easier to handle. Or color coding sorting bins for kids who need like visual support. You could take a picture of items ahead of time and have like them match and place based on the photo. And then another activity I was thinking of is counting trails. Like you could create a visual path with bold color or tactical markers for children with visual impairments. And then you can do like seated counting, clapping, tapping, different things. And then you can also use the trails to like create patterns. So maybe we're going this way and this is like an A-B pattern, or we're going, over the rocks and it's an A-B-A pattern. Um, Also, you can do things like measuring outside. So you could give all the kids a piece of yarn and you could say, hey, we're going to go outside and maybe we're measuring rocks with this yarn. And we're going to say this rock is this many strings of yarn long. And it could also be adapted by using tools with large numbers, color code measuring tape, or even using string with like clothespins to measure compared to without needing the numbers at all. So, yeah. Um, Another thing was like math scavenger hunts. So you could use like pictures or checklists or tactical cards, and you can assign buddies and use verbal cues to help kind of guide the right research. So for a math scavenger hunt, maybe we're writing numbers on like pine cones or rocks, and we're just putting it all around the playground, and we're looking for, numbers 1 through 10, anything like that. And last but not least is one of my like favorite games, hopscotch. I used to do this all the time, even now. I might take some chalk outside of my apartment because, we don't have a big playground, and, we'll draw chalk and I'll use it with my 5-year-olds, and we'll use it for like number recognition, shapes. There's so many things you could do with a hopscotch, or you could put letters in it. Fun fact, I actually had one in my classroom before, completely made of construction paper, and we used scotch tape to tape it down to the floor, and the kids loved it. But you can modify it with sitting movements, like reaching to touch numbers on the mat, or like using handprints instead of hopping. You want to focus on the focus isn't on how the kids move, but that they're engaged with the math. So, inclusion isn't just about changing the activity entirely. It's about adjusting the setup so every kid can play and feel confident and be a part of the learning. And that's, what we're all about. Next slide, please. I think that's all for fine motor activities. All right. So, um, I want to say a lot of times when people think of fine motor activities, they think of scissors, crayons, Play-Doh. When we hear fine motor, those are great, but you can do a lot of fine motor things outside. Um, if not as many, there might be more opportunities. So, like picking flowers, collecting rocks, scooping dirt, all of those are fine motor activities. And for children who need support with grasping or coordination, we can offer adapted tools like easy gripping tongs or larger items, or maybe visual guides to help engage them. Climbing ropes, monkey bars, they all might seem like gross motor activities, but those hands are gripping and pulling too. So for children with limited mobility, we could think about other ways to challenge hand strength, like pulling resistance, bands, or using textured balls for squeezing. Drawing with chalk or sticks is also important coordination. And a way to like kind of modify this for children who might be using wheelchairs or might have limited range is by bringing vertical surface to them or using like chunky chalk or like a handled whiteboards at like lap level. Um, Next, nature brings so many rich textures. So, rough bark, squishy dirt, or like smooth stones give extra sensory input. And for children with sensory sensitivities, we can offer like gloves or alternative materials like mats or fabric leaves. Maybe you can like cut up sponges for them. Um, Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk about some activities that you could do while outside now, outside fountain water activities. So you could start with like a rock or leaf sorting. Most kids, they already love collecting these things. So let them explore and gather materials. Maybe you take a couple sticks and set it up like a grid, and then they can like organize them by like color, shape, and size, or however they want to do it. Next is sidewalk chalk. Art is a wonderful thing. I've seen people get like the picture frames from the Dollar Tree and they'll put them on the ground, take the back and the glass out and put them on the ground and like let ch children draw their own pictures inside of those. They can draw their own hopscotch, make patterns. Honestly, too, if you add a little water to chalk, a lot of people think it damages it. But honestly, it really gives you these vibrant, bright colors, because it's wet. And kids really enjoy that also. So maybe giving them a little cup of water on the side they can dip it in, or if it's rained the day before and the ground's still wet, letting them bring that chalk out and explore with them. And then also, there's a little bit of science in there because then we're watching the chalk break down and dissolve. Um, Thread is great for building Pittsburgh graphs and bilateral coordination. So instead of using like food items or like you could use like large buttons, cut straw, use chunky beads or like fabric leaves with holes, and offer like pipe cleaners, stiffen yarn or lacing cards for easy threading. And it just makes sure that the workplace is stable and accessible, whether like they lay the tray on the floor or children might sit on the ground, or like we have a tray that's like accessible if we have children who are in a wheelchair. And then one of my favorite activities is mud kitchen. The children are in there and they're able to, pretend play, practice their fighting over skills. They're stirring, they're scooping, they're cooking with natural items like sticks and pine cones and leaves and whatever they have. If mud isn't possible or if kids have like sensory sensitivity, you could offer like dry versions of the materials like bark chips, kinetic sand, or textured sponges. Um, and another activity I really like that I did in college was my professor, she gave all of us a piece of tape and she wrapped it around our wrist so it was like our bracelet. And we went outside and we walked around and we made like it was like a nature bracelet. And it was so cool. We came back inside and we all showed, our classmates. And so I took that when I was teaching and I brought that to my students and they really enjoyed it too. They were just playing and then whatever they saw they liked, they could just stick it to their wrist. And then we went inside and we went to circle time and we talked all about it. So, all of these ideas support muscle development and are flexible enough to meet the needs of every child. It's all about just creating opportunities that are accessible and open and full of joy. Thank you guys.
All right. So the next area we're going to talk about is the library or book area. And there are many ways that you can incorporate literacy in books inside and outside for all ages. So traditional story times work well inside at almost any point throughout the day. So you can have a dedicated story time, reading during snacks and meals, circle time, using books as a transition tool or calm down activity, and reading to children in small groups or one-on-one really helps build relationships. And now we're going to take a look at see how each age group can take this activity outside. So for infants, our youngest learners, they can enjoy outside just as much as their older friends. Just because they don't have the same type of developed motor skills, doesn't mean that they don't need the fresh air, the sunshine, or feel the rain or the wind. Infants can be brought outside to go on buggy rides or to have time on blankets. Reading stories about the outdoors or any of their preferred books enhances their outdoor experience. So, reading stories about the grass, wind, or water can also be paired with the sensory experiences um, so that they can feel what those elements feel like for themselves. For toddlers, as we all know, toddlers love to move their bodies. Reading books about different animals is a great idea, and then you can ask them to move like whatever animals you are reading about. So example, can they crawl like a bear or fly like a butterfly? If you have books on tape or on a device, you can play that outside and have the children act out their favorite parts of the story. For preschoolers, they can enjoy the same activities as their younger friends that I mentioned. Some other ideas that they might enjoy include writing their own books, so they can add those books to the inside library area. Preschoolers have a wide range of literacy abilities, and do not need to know how to actually write words to do this. You can ask them to draw what they see or what they want to write and make it a visual story. The child can also tell a teacher what the story is. They can narrate it while the teacher writes the words down. Preschoolers can also use the outdoors as a theater. They can choose a favorite book and act it out, either doing it alone or with some friends. Okay, and next we're going to talk about the block area. So block play is a fantastic tool for teaching children fine motor skills, science and math concepts, social emotional skills, and language and literacy. So children, when they're playing with blocks, they learn to generate ideas, plan out how those ideas will take shape, and then troubleshoot those ideas if the need arises. And block play, depending on the age and developmental level, can be very simple or it can be quite elaborate. The best practice is to add materials to the blocks to enhance the play, such as cars, people, animals, road signs, paper and pencils, and really anything else that the creativity of the children call for. So taking blocks outside, you can bring your classroom blocks out, or if your program has the natural materials already, you can bring nature into the block play. You can use wood, stones, rocks, leaves, flowers, or anything else you can find outside to build with, to accessorize with. There are some companies that do make blocks out of natural materials that you can buy. They are not cheap, but you may choose to use some of your Early Achievers Quality Improvement Award to purchase those if you would like. You can also think outside the box too, just as the creators of this picture have done. Any type of loose parts will get the children's imaginations running wild. Items like tissue boxes, paper towel rolls, aluminum foil, masking tape, um, and really anything can be brought outside to enhance the block play. Children can decorate their structures before or after construction with paint, markers, crayons, and even magazines to make a collage. Some fun accessories for outdoor block play can be a child-safe set of tools and a hard hat. They can be carpenters and builders with their creations. And really, the goal for block play is for the children to be creative, use their planning skills, and really to have fun. The sky and your imagination are the limit to what you can use to make these amazing structures.
All right, so now that we've talked about all these super fun things, we're going to talk about safety a little bit. So, whenever you go outside, or maybe before if you can, you always want to do a daily visual inspection of your outdoor environment. You want to make sure all equipment is in working order and remove any potential hazards you see. And with that, you want to check the temperature on playground equipment as we move into the hotter months so that children don't burn their skin. If you utilize water tables outside, they are required to be emptied and sanitized daily, or more frequently if they're shared amongst different classrooms. You want to make sure that children are dressed for the weather, so ensure that they have enough layers for warmth in the rain, such as rain boots and rain jackets. On hotter days, it's important that children have proper footwear, so if you can, avoid flip-flops so that they can properly move and run in a developmentally appropriate way. You'll want to monitor weather conditions, of course, so children should not go outside in excessive heat, nor should they go outside in excessive cold or during any type of storm, such as thunder, lightning, flooding, or blizzard conditions, or poor air quality, as we've seen the last few years. For days where it's not possible to get outside, make sure you're still offering large motor activities inside and just create yourself a short list in case you can't go outside one day. Something to be thinking about now is to start getting those sunscreen forms out. We do get those surprisingly hot days in our area during the spring, so be sure you have your families bring in sunscreen or the one provided by your site and have them sign their sunscreen form. And then you want to be sure to check the weather and the local UV index. Your smartphone's weather app actually has the UV index on it, and it will tell you what time you should be wearing sunscreen up until, but you want to make sure that you monitor it throughout the day because sometimes weather can change and sometimes that length of time will also change. It's recommended to apply even at moderate exposure between 3 to 5, even with 80% cloud cover, because children can still be exposed to the sun. You want to apply sunscreen 30 minutes before going outside and be sure to adhere to the recommendations on the provided sunscreen for reapplication. So next, I'm going to talk about the importance of getting outside even if it's raining. We live in an environment where it rains quite a bit, especially in the colder months of the year. Despite that, with proper rain gear such as boots, jackets, and rain suits, there is a ton of value to playing outside in the rain. Of course, pay attention to the temperature. Sometimes it really is just too cold to play outside in the winter, but for the most part, getting outside should happen daily, rain or shine. So there's a lot of benefits to taking children outside in the rain. For one, physical development, they have to take more care so as not to slip on surfaces that might be slippery due to rain or mud. And of course, children will jump in a puddle if one is readily available around them. Both of these activities exercise their large motor muscles and strengthen them over time. Playing outside in the rain brings a lot of sensory exploration. There is a world of sensory play that goes hand in hand with playing outside in the rain. Children will jump and stomp in puddles. They will make mud pies or can utilize an outdoor mud kitchen with buckets and scoopers if you have the space for this type of play. It will allow for more exploratory play, which will engage their creativity and their imaginations. And with creativity and imaginative play, many children's imaginations come alive during outdoor play,
and some mud and rainwater will definitely enhance this. They'll be cooking up some delicious pies and cakes and essentially can create a whole world around them just playing in the mud. As far as academic learning, this is the best way to learn about the weather and nature through seeing it in real time, such as how does the water flow to make a puddle? Follow the path of the water. How come the worms and the slugs come out when it's wet outside? What better way to teach about these concepts than by engaging directly with nature to observe and engage in it? Children can learn about science, such as the water cycle. They'll learn about math through using buckets and digging and anything that comes with that, or building a rain gauge. They can do art through using their imaginative play or even drawing little pictures in the mud with sticks, and will learn much more about the world around them through directly engaging within it.
Thank you for watching. For further guidance or questions, please reach out to your coach.